Okay, people. Sorry, I've taken so long to do another video. I've been away. It was a holiday time. Quick dip out of the country, back in the country now. And while I was away, I did get to see the weekend's card. And on the 10th of August, 2024, there was a fight between Vergil Ortiz and Serhii Bohachuk. Now, in this fight, it was a good... The reason why it was such a good fight is because it was two pressure fighters, two top-level pressure fighters, pitting their wits against each other. So it was basically what is known as a phone booth fight. They were head-to-head, hardly anyone taking a step back. Most of the action was in the center of the ring. Serhii Bohachuk, he was the interim champion. It was for the WBC interim belt at 154 pounds. Vergil Ortiz, at this point, had a 100% knockout ratio. Vergil Ortiz started off at the welterweight division, but it was always big. He was always very big at the welterweight division. So it was inevitable that he was going to move up at some point. But he was taking long to move up because he wanted to get a title at welterweight. And by trying to get a title at welterweight, he kept on basically boiling himself down to stay at welterweight. And while doing this, he was using some different methods to boil down to the welterweight limit of 147 pounds. And in doing this, he became ill. It was a blood disorder. So Vergil Ortiz was diagnosed with a blood disorder called rhabdomyolysis. That's how I'm pronouncing it. So he got diagnosed with this blood disorder called rhabdomyolysis. And with that, he was unable to fight for a couple of years. Michael McKinson was WBO international welterweight. So it was basically the WBO route he was taking. And with that being the route that he was taking, the WBO, he was lining himself up for a Terence Crawford fight, because at that point, Terence Crawford was the WBO champion at welterweight. So he was building himself up for a Terence Crawford fight, or he's making his way up in the welterweight division under the WBO belt, which Crawford had. So he was looking for the Terence Crawford fight. Then became ill with this rhabdomyolysis situation because he was trying to lose weight in a particular way that was damaging his system. He took off 2 years subsequently. So from 2022, when he fought McKinson, he didn't fight again until 2024. Now, in my opinion, while this was all happening, I'm thinking, boy, poor Ting's going to have a short career. He can't fight again after this with this weight loss condition, with this illness. But he didn't listen to me. He didn't take my word for it. He continued to battle on and get himself into a fight. So he then moved up to the junior welterweight division. But his first fight wasn't even at 154, which is the limit for junior welterweight. His first fight, he weighed in at 156. And his opponent, who was Frederick Lawson, he weighed in at 152.5 pounds. So Lawson was fighting under the guise of 154, which is super welterweight, junior middleweight. But Ortiz came in at 156, which didn't matter because it wasn't a title fight and it wasn't like leading to a title fight. So he came in at 156, which was a comfortable weight for him at the time, which is basically middleweight. Anything after 154 up to 160 is middleweight. So he was coming in as a middleweight per se, fighting Lawson at 152. He knocked him out in the first round. Then about 3 months later, he had another fight against Thomas Delorme. Now, Thomas Delorme, he isn't actually a career super welterweight. He actually fought mostly at welterweight or junior welterweight, in all honesty. That was also a tick-over fight. He took him out in the first round as well. And then 4 months later, which was now the weekend just gone, on the 10th of August 2024, he now fights Serhii Bohachuk. Now this was for the eliminator for the WBC, because Serhii Bohachuk had the WBC interim belt. I explained before what happened with the Charlo brothers, with the Charlo going up to fight Canelo but still holding the belt. Then he got stripped of all the titles and they've been fragmented amongst the guys that were number one in that weight class. So the WBC belt is held by Sebastian Fundora. Yeah, he fought for the WBO title, and the WBC title got thrown in there as well. So now he's a unified champion. By hook or by crook, they made him the unified champion. So where Ortiz was fighting Bohachuk, and Bohachuk had the interim title of the WBC, it's looking like he's going on to then fight Sebastian Fundora. Now, Sebastian Fundora is talking like he wants to fight Errol Spence Jr. in defense of his newly acquired titles. Don't understand why. Errol Spence hasn't fought in over a year, and he's coming off a loss. Well, the powers that be make these things happen if it's going to happen. And the winner of this fight was trying to angle himself in the direction of the winner of, well, I'm going to say Sebastian Fundora, because Errol Spence versus Sebastian Fundora hasn't even been made yet. It's not even a certified thing as per now. So the winner of Vergil Ortiz and Serhii Bohachuk was going on to then get themselves in line to fight Sebastian Fundora. But the Sheikh, His Excellency as they call him, HE, took himself down to the fight, went in the dressing room of Vergil Ortiz and said, yeah, when you win this fight, my guy, I'm going to line you up to fight Crawford, innit? Because I hear say you want to fight Crawford. Mr. Certain interview, and you say you want to fight Crawford. So this is what me I got to do. When you fight this guy and beat this guy, I'm going to line you up to fight Crawford next, yeah? And he was like, yeah, man, I'm onto that. 2-2, the fight happens. That was on the weekend. Serhii Bohachuk against Vergil Ortiz. Now, this was a Golden Boy card. Vergil is a Golden Boy fighter. Golden Boy is trying to spearhead him to make him be basically the next face of Golden Boy promotions. This was a Golden Boy card. It was nothing to do with Rehab Season, even though you see Rehab Season prints all over the place. It's just sponsorship, right? It's just a sponsorship making them know that Golden Boy will work with Rehab and Sheikh and blah blah blah. Serhii Bohachuk, pressure fighter. Vergil Ortiz, also a pressure fighter. At the time, Serhii, he already had a loss, but had one loss. But for all of his 24 wins, he had 23 knockouts. So he had a very high knockout ratio. You got like 95, 96% knockout ratio, yeah? And Vergil had 100% knockout ratio going into this fight. But the difference is Sergei's knockouts were actually at 154, which is super welterweight, light middleweight. Where Vergil's knockouts, 90% of them was at welterweight. He had 2 at super welterweight, but those were against fighters that were not naturally super welterweights or naturally junior middleweights. They had been brought up from the welterweight. Even with Delorme, he even started at 140 or even before that at lightweight. But I think he started at super lightweight, 140. And he'd come up to super welterweight to fight Vergil, which was just like a fill-in fight. So even though he had a 100% knockout ratio, it was at the smaller weight. So this was kind of like to see if his power could carry up to 154. Fight starts, fight's happening. Boom, round 1. As we all thought, straight in the middle of the ring, you know, punches coming from all angles, blocking high, dipping this way, dipping that way. Both guys throwing a lot of shots, both guys connecting with a lot of shots. Coming up to the end of the first round, as Vergil is kind of backing off a bit with his jab. He's jabbing and backing off. As he's doing that, Serhii clobbers him with a nice shot, overhand right, knocks him to the ground. Now, this is kind of like what I'm going with boxing gets on my nerves type stuff, right? This is a Golden Boy card. He's the main Golden Boy guy at the moment, right? Vergil. He gets knocked down. As soon as he gets knocked down, the ref says, no, it's a slip, it's a slip, it's a slip. No, it's a slip, right? I hate that. Yeah, it was a blatant knockdown, but the ref's gone, no, it's a slip, it's a slip. So anyway, he gets up and carries on. But for me, he lost that round anyway. So let's just say that's a 10-9 round to Serhii at the moment, right? At the moment, we're going to say it's 10-9 round, okay? So the second round comes, and Vergil is very active in that first half of that round. Very active, very much putting shots together, winning the round, slows down at the back end of that second round, but still, in my opinion, he wins that round. So now it's 1-1 at this present moment. This is my personal opinion. This is just my personal opinion from what I'm seeing as I'm viewing the fight. Third round, it's even, but Serhii is connecting with more. He's got more output and he's connecting with more. It's just that Vergil is slightly more flashy with his output. But Serhii, very straight with his shots, not much hooks and stuff, and he is connecting more with Vergil. Still in the phone booth situation. When I say phone booth, I mean these guys are basically face to face. No one's really backing off. All the action is happening in the middle of the ring. Maybe one man takes 2 steps backwards, but as he takes 2 steps backwards, his opponent takes 2 steps forward. So there's not really no gaps between these two guys. They're really in the midst of everything. This is more mid-range to inside fighting. Mid-range or inside. So shots are just short and sharp and a lot of connected going on. And Vergil is getting peppered. His face is just getting... He can't move out of the way of these punches quick enough. He's doing some movement, lateral and head movement is doing well, but at the same time, he's getting caught with a lot of shots. That third round, I gave it to Serhii, myself personally, right? So that's 2-1 so far. Fourth round, a bit more of the same. So that's another Serhii round. 3-1 right now. Fifth round is, I think they stopped it at this round, yeah, before the round started because WBC has got this instant replay situation in their thing now. So they could look back at things and determine whether it was a correct decision or not. They've looked back at that knockdown and they said, no, that was a knockdown. So it took about a minute or so for the referee and the officials on the side to communicate the fact that this was a knockdown. So now the referee's gone to both corners and said that first round what I called a slip, it was actually a knockdown. They're classing it as a knockdown. So that's a 10-8 round for Serhii. So he's told both corners that was a 10-8 round for Serhii. So now it's not 10-9 round anymore. It's now 10-8. So that 3-1 situation that I was saying is now, in my opinion, 4-1 because the knockdown takes off an extra point. So it kind of makes the gap a bit bigger. Okay. It doesn't kind of. It actually makes the gap a bit bigger. All right. Cool. So the fifth round, Vergil comes out in the mean machine type thing. Boom, 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 putting shots together. Now, they both, remember, there's the phone booth fight. Close range to inside. Everyone's talking about fight of the year. For me, yeah, it was a good fight. It was a very good fight. Fight of the year is dragging it a bit. It's a bit stretched because, for instance, it was a lot of taking turns. You go, then I go. I throw 3 punches, you throw 3 punches. I'm going to block for your 3 punches, then I'm going to put my output of my 3-4 punches. And I'm going to block again and move a bit when you throw in your punches. So it wasn't really much punching between the punches. It was more, you go, then I go. You go, then I go. So yeah, it was a good, but maybe I'm a bit too much of a critic to really give my opinion. But my opinion is it's not really fight of the year. It was a good fight. It was entertaining because there was pure action all the way through. That's why probably they're saying fight of the year. So I'm going to leave it with them fight of the year analyses. And cool, you say what you want. That's fine. That's not my business. I'm giving you my opinion. And fifth round, I gave that to Vergil. So right now, it's 3-2, but with an extra knockdown in that first round as an extra point. So it's 3-2, but it's kind of 4-2-ish, if you get what I'm saying. Cool. Boom. 6th and 7th round were kind of hard to call. They were kind of hard to call because it was very much, as I said, you go, then I go. You go, then I go. And not everybody's connecting. Everybody's not blocking well. But for me, Serhii had a bit more output in both those rounds. Just for me, yeah? Just for me, had a bit more output. So I kind of give him 6 and 7. This is where it gets a bit sticky because in them rounds, you could have given them to Vergil. So let's just give them 1 round each, right? So now it's 4-3, right? But as I said, that knockdown makes it an extra point. 4-3, but I'm going to give him that extra point. 6 and 7. So in the 8th round, this time, Vergil gets knocked down again. And it's called an actual knockdown this time. Okay? So they're counting it. Boom, boom, boom. Gave him the count. That's a 10-8 round. So that's 2 10-8 rounds to Serhii, you know. And plus I've given him another 2, maybe 3 rounds up to this point. Okay? So that's 2 knockdowns. Out of 8 rounds, he's had 2 knockdowns and he's already won 2 or 3 more rounds. Yeah? So that's 5 rounds what he's won out of 8. I'm going to say 4 rounds that he's won out of 8, 2 knockdowns. Okay? That means Vergil has won 4 rounds with no knockdowns. He's won 4 rounds with 2 knockdowns. So right now, in my opinion, because I'm not a judge, but in my opinion, at this point, Serhei's up. Okay? Boom. The knockdowns weren't like heavy duty knockdowns where man's legs are gone. It was more flash knockdowns. Caught him in an unbalanced position. So you're catching him when he's not fully balanced on his feet. And he goes down both times that he got caught like that. But he wasn't dizzy per se because he's come back from the knockdown. And in the same round, both rounds, he's given a good account of himself going on forward from the knockdown. He's come back and he's pushing the action, trying to get the get back. But it didn't work both times. So there's still 10-8 rounds. There's sometimes when you can get knocked down, come back, and it won't be a 10-8 round. It will be a 10-9 round because you've done so much better when you got off the canvas. He done a lot better when he come off the canvas, but it wasn't enough to turn the round around to be 10-9 rounds. So they were still 10-8 rounds. Okay? Now, after that, you got 9, 10, 11, and 12. In these rounds, I will give, personally, I gave Vergil another 2 rounds. So in total, I gave Vergil 6 rounds. That's just me watching the fight. I'm not a judge. I'm going to have to continuously repeat myself when I say I'm not a judge. It's just my eye test that's seeing what I'm seeing and giving my own judgment and my own assessment. And in my assessment, he didn't win no more than 6 rounds. Okay? So if there's 12 rounds in the fight, which this was a 12-round fight, Vergil won 6, Serhei won 6, but the caveat is that Serhei had 2 knockdowns. 2 different rounds when he knocked down a guy. So in my opinion, Serhei won the fight. And obviously there were a lot of people saying that Serhei won the fight. As things go, I call it a robbery. But it was such an entertaining fight that I can see where people can say it's not a robbery, it could have gone either way. Now, I would say that's true if the knockdowns weren't included. So if there were no knockdowns, then yeah, it could have gone either way. But with the 2 knockdowns, that's separated everything. For me, that separated everything, and Serhei won the fight. Couple that with the fact that after the fight, you look at the 2 men's faces. Serhei's face is like he's round 1. Vergil looks like he's got battered and bruised and gone through a proper war. He looked like he got beaten up. Okay? I know that you can't really assess things from that alone. I'm just coupling that with the 2 knockdowns and how close the fight was and how I personally wasn't able to give him no more than 6 rounds. And that's being generous. In my opinion, I was being generous by giving him 6 rounds. A lot of people said it was nowhere near a Vergil win. It was either a draw or a Serhei win. That's what a lot of people are saying. And for me, that's what I saw. I didn't even see a draw. I saw a Serhei win. And that's only because of the 2 knockdowns. It was a close fight. Both men gave a very good account of themselves. Nobody can walk away from that fight and be ashamed. And I don't blame Vergil for the outcome because it's not him judging the fight. He's just partaking and doing what he can to win the fight. It's these judges. They need to be more accountable and really give their assessment as to how they scored the rounds. They release pictures of the actual scorecards, and that's all well and good. At the same time, we need to know how they're scoring these rounds. We need to know why you gave that round to Vergil or not Serhei in a round where a lot of the people are saying Serhei won. Little things like this needs to happen in boxing. But the fights happened. Vergil's won. If boxing was an honourable situation, then a rematch would happen. But I can't see that happening. After the fight, he's calling out the winner of Fundora versus Spence. That fight isn't even made yet, so I don't even know how you're calling out the winner of that fight. Do you know what I mean? But at the same time, it is the WBC belt that you're en route to go and challenge for, so I understand that. You should say I want to fight Fundora. Forget the winner of them 2. Go and make the Fundora fight because that fight is dragging its heels. No one is really looking to make that fight. Go and make the Fundora fight. Get your Golden Boy back hittage. And obviously you got the Sheikh that's behind kind of Golden Boy. It's not really behind Golden Boy. They work with the zone. Golden Boys with the zone. They could actually make that request to the Sheikh and say, yo, come make this fight for us because we want to fight the winner. We want to fight that champion over there. We've got this interim belt. He's got the belt. So therefore, I'm next to fight him. Forget about this Errol guy. Errol ain't fighting him. So let's make the fight ourselves. Let's go and make this fight what we're supposed to make. I wouldn't be too averse to that. Make that fight with Fundora. If not, give the guy his rematch. I know, I can tell by your energy, you don't want to fight Crawford. You don't want to fight Crawford. You just don't. Yeah? That's fine. Go and fight Fundora. That's who you're mandatory for. Make that fight happen. Well done to both fighters. Sorry for Serhii for the result that did go against you, where you put up a very good account. Vergil, is not your fault. You're out there doing the fight, so good luck to you. And we'll see you in the next video.